Let's start.
And good morning everyone. Welcome to Tech Camp. Palakpakan naman tayo dyan mga kapatid. I am Dave Mercado. Kilala niyo ba ako? Good. Magkakakilanlanan tayong lahat mamaya and taking care of you for the next 2 days. And my co-facilitator for Tech Camp, Jamie. Let's give a huge hand for Jamie. Okay, now I realize that a lot of us come from many different places in the Philippines. I want us all at the same time right now to say good morning to the entire room, but in your local language or dialect. I just want to get a sense of that at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3! How many do you think that was, Jamie? 50. Let's just hear some of the different ways that you said good morning. Ano pa yung mga languages that are here right now? Magandang umaga, lahat ng mga Tagalog. Tagalog. Okay. Give me another way to say good morning in one of the local languages. Maayong buntag, that is Bisaya. Lahat ng mga Bisaya speakers and Mindanao speakers, that's Bisayas and Mindanao. Bisaya. Okay, other ways to say good morning.
Rainaga sa Ilocos. That is from Bicol.
That is from Bicol. Other ways to say good morning.
Masan ko siya kabuasan from Pangasinan.
Other ways. Let's hear them. Other ways, raise your hand so I can go to you. There you go. Okay, I'll go to you.
Magbuha mapita sila ganun lang. From ARMM.
ARMM, okay. Can we have help with the microphone? This microphone is not working over there. Other ways to say good morning. Meron pa ba tayo dyan? Apat lang ba? Okay, over there. Just to get a sense of the room.
Naimbag, abigat kada kayo amin.
Ilocano. Okay. Wala ba tayong Becky dito? Becky language, wala. Okay, so once again, good morning! So, this is Tech Camp, and our topic, of course, is disaster reduction, and I think we have to
disaster response and resilience.
Disaster response and resilience building. And since that is our topic, we decided to start responsibly by making you aware of the safety protocols within our building right now. We cannot practice disaster response, risk reduction, without being aware of the particular safety protocols within this building. Luckily, we are in the first floor. It is quite simple. This room only has one exit, and that is the exit right behind you. It is illuminated with that green exit sign. The protocol, in case there is an emergency, loss of power, fire, earthquakes, to immediately go to the left and into the open area right outside the building. That is the assembly point. And the safety marshals, which the building has assigned, will take care of us once we are there in the open area to our left. I hope that is clear, and that is our simple safety protocol for this particular building. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tech Camp.
And I just want to say that this is actually the 36th Tech Camp that we have done. Right now, you are already part of a global community of Tech Campers all around the world. We've done them on a variety of issues in regions everywhere, and so we're really excited for you to be part of this community. And who has already joined the Facebook group? Yes? Okay, so make sure you log on to the Facebook group, request and access, and we'll make sure to add you, post your pictures, tweet on Twitter today, #TechCamp.
Yeah, we have open Wi-Fi right here. There is actually, the password is actually on that plastic thing, Sandy. What do you call that? And yes, in this conference, we are encouraging you to be online, live tweet, and post about us on Facebook as we go along the entire conference. No, we are actually encouraging you to use your mobile devices and your laptops throughout the entire conference, throughout the entire day. So having said that, we're going to kick things off properly by introducing a number of people who will give you welcoming messages. The first one we'd like to call up is the Disaster Preparedness and Response Coordinator of the World Food Program. Let's give a round of applause for Onura Daniels.
Magandang hapon. Good morning. Umagandang hapon.
Magandang umaga.
Okay, magandang umaga.
Very good.
Thanks, Gail. The Senior Vice President for Corporate Communications, Ms. Yoli, good morning. Gail Tina, Country Communications Manager for Google Philippines. Christina Malone, Mr. Damila, our distinguished guests, mayors, provincial disaster risk reduction management officers, our colleagues from the academic, NGO, and friends from the World Food Program. Good morning. I'm speaking on behalf of my colleague, Depayan, who unfortunately is unable to be here, but as the World Food Program, we find this very, very timely and important for us to be working with the U.S. State Department and USAID on tech camp and disaster risk reduction. As we all know, natural and man-made disasters are the leading cause of hunger and affect all dimensions of food security. And as the World Food Program, we are very, very concerned about food insecurity. Disaster risk reduction for us is a priority because of the relationship with food insecurity. As you all know, last year was a very, very tough year for us in the Philippines. We had a series of typhoons, cyclones, earthquakes. In fact, it was more than the average. We had about 25 typhoons and cyclones last year, culminating with the Yolanda, which I'm sure we're all still talking about, particularly from our colleagues in the World Food Program and DPR program, where virtually all of us were constrained, or rather responded with the way we saw fit. So it's very, very timely that we're now looking at tech and DRR, because again, as the intensity of these disasters continue with the frequency, it's imperative we find new solutions to DRR. So, and courtesy of the United States Agency for International Development of that, we've been working on DPR program since 2011, starting with 4 highly disaster-prone provinces of Cagayan, Benguet, Sorsogon, and Laguna. And over the years, with the generous funding, we've been able to expand such that today we're in 10 provinces, including Batangas, Misamis, Oriel, Comval, Davao Oriental, Iloilo, and Maguindanao. And the principal thrust for us is how to build resilient communities within these areas. Over the period, we've been able to work with not only the NGOs, but we've been able to incorporate the NGO CSO societies and the academic institutions, principally because we believe we have to start looking at how to use indigenous science and technology to solve disaster risk reduction problems. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for heeding to our invitation and coming. And then we hope that the next couple of days will be very, very fruitful and will provide new dimensions, new solutions on how to deal with disaster risk reduction. Thank you very much and good morning.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, Lou Daniels from the World Food Program.
Great. So our next speaker is Daniel Miller, who is with the USAID Philippines team and the Director of the Office of Economic Growth, Democracy, and Governance. Hi, Daniel.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Where I come from, we say howdy.
Howdy.
All right. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming here. I started thinking about this tech camp like back in August or September, and it's always nice to finally come to the realization that it's happening and that it's all great. So it's great because you are all here. So once again, thank you so much for taking time from your schedules to be here with us today. I would like to acknowledge a few people. First of all, Nora Daniels from the World Food Program, who just addressed you. Tina Malone, my colleague from the Public Affairs Office of the U.S. Embassy here in Manila. Of course, Pritam Kabe from the E-Diplomacy Office of the State Department in Washington, and Jamie Finlander, who've come all the way from Washington for this. I also would like to recognize Gail Tan of Google Philippines, who is the communications manager for the country, and Yuri Cristano, vice president for communications of Globe Telecom. You know, it's interesting because communications is important, and just a little anecdote. A number of years ago, I went to a leadership training program that I thought we were going to learn, you know, about famous generals like MacArthur and General Custer. Have you ever heard of General Custer? Have you ever heard of General MacArthur? Okay. So I went to this training program thinking we would read about, you know, strategies about all these famous generals and how to lead. But we didn't. We focused on communicating because they said if you're going to be a leader, you have to have followers. You have to be able to communicate your ideas and your strategies so that people are with you. All of you are leaders in your respective fields, and so communicating your ideas and strategies is very important. The other word I want to emphasize is partnership. Now, these days, partnerships is a word that we oftentimes hear, but it's really what this tech camp is about. It's really bringing people and organizations together, working together for a common goal, because working together, we can achieve much more than we can working individually. So this is a partnership between all of you, all of us, as we try to communicate about the challenges we face with addressing disasters in your communities. It's about communicating what some of the new innovations are, what some of the technologies are, and how we get these technologies and innovations to the communities. I'm especially interested in disasters, not because of the harm that they do and the destruction that they cause, but because they are a very powerful force that we have to reckon with. I grew up in the Midwest of the United States where we frequently had tornadoes. Maybe you've seen the movie Twister? So you know what tornadoes are, right? I mean, this big, strong windstorm. We probably had 20 tornadoes a year go through our community. Sometimes they were very destructive. Sometimes they weren't. But when I was growing up, there was no cell phones. There was no, Wi-Fi. There was no computers. I grew up on a farm outside. So you look and you'd see the clouds coming up. Hey, it looks like a bad cloudy day. I think we better, get down in the basement. Now, these days, the technology to deal with disasters is huge. How many of you here have a phone? Everybody's got a phone, right? I mean, how many of you have two phones? I have two phones also, but I lost one the other day in the taxi, so now I only got one, so people can't call me. But technology is what is going to make coming to grips with disasters much easier. And this is what we are gathered here today to determine. But we can't just talk about the technologies. We need to find ways to apply it to the problems that we're facing in the field. So this is really what we're going to be doing today, is bringing the communities together, the LGUs, the NGOs, meeting with the technologists, figuring out what makes sense to make our lives better in the field. So it's really the real-world applications that we're going to be focusing on, and then this will feed into the hackathon later in the week. Just a reminder, everybody please join the Facebook page for the Tech Camp. I mean, even I'm on Facebook, and I'm old, so if I can be on it, you should all be on it as well. So again, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to the deliberations that are coming out of this the next couple of days.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel Miller. And now, so everyone, please join the Facebook group, and again, on Twitter. Up next, we'd like to call on the Country Communications Manager of Google Philippines, palakpakan natin, Ms. Gail Tan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for inviting me here. And I'd like to acknowledge, of course, our friends from the U.S. Embassy, USAID, Globe, all our NGO friends, everybody from the government, all our volunteers, GDG members. I'm really excited about this, and I'm so glad to see so many people in Let's See because they're preparing my slide. But this is such a great turnout, and I think it's very valuable when we come together to actually do something and not just, stay, be stagnant with preparations and planning and not actually moving forward. So let's see how it goes. When Typhoon Haiyan hit on November 8, November 7, I was actually doing a Google event. So November 7, I can say that I was not really an expert on crisis response. By November 9 or 10, I was actually starting to fake it. It's like, oh yeah, I can do this, because there were so many media getting in touch with us and then asking us how can we help in terms of technology. And there were so many NGOs also trying to coordinate with us, trying to get in touch with our engineers. And I think the most valuable part in there was when they were getting in touch with me. I felt so relieved that I can actually refer them to an engineer or somebody who actually knows what they're doing. I was really just keeping calm and faking it. So, how are we doing with this? All right, then you can just press presentation. Can you please press? All right, so like I said, before the typhoon, this actually would not mean anything to me. This is more like maybe a whipped cream with some pandan flavoring on the side. I don't know what it is, but when I was informed that there was a big typhoon coming along our way, and then I saw this image, it made an impact that would not change, that would have changed everything for me and of course for all of us. And as I was telling you, all I was doing really was trying to keep calm and fake it, because at that time I did not understand anything, and had we had something like this before, then we would have perhaps achieved more than what we did. Not to say that we have not achieved anything, we have as a matter of fact, but things like this, convergence like this, really makes a whole lot of difference. So, what is your story? I'm asking that is because when I was working with the people on the ground, our developers, our engineers, our media, our NGOs, and trying to form a solution to what was already happening, there was a story that compelled me to keep on helping, staying up until 4 in the morning or 5 without sleep to get in touch with people from different time zones. And I would like everybody to just think about that story that actually propelled you to come here. It's not just because it's part of your job. I think there is something, there is that volunteerism factor in all of us that actually pushes us to do something, and that's the story that we have, so let's not forget that. Everybody here is a volunteer. Anybody here who came because you were forced to? I hope not. So all of us are volunteers, and I think that's the main component. Even at Google, we recognize that. That's the main component. Every time something needs to propel or to move forward, it is the fact that we have a lot of volunteers who take their time, who give up their efforts, who give up their skills to be part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that is something that we should applaud. I mean, let's give ourselves a big round of applause for being volunteers here right now. We have to recognize the effort that you give us, and we do recognize it, and we're very thankful. We have seen these images before. Volunteers coming, they repack foods, they carry stuff, people from foreign countries coming over to just give of what they can, resources, people, time, energy, and it's an amazing thing. But you know what? There are so many organizations who have a lot of stuff that they want to contribute. As a matter of fact, I found so many information graphics online just to prove a point. We've got from McDonald's, we've got from Asia Society, we have from UP Cebu, we have from Air 21. These are just very few of all the organizations that listed everything that they need or everything that you can give to give them. But here's the thing. With all this information, with all the data, with all the resources coming in, it's not easy. It's a tough task to actually organize and put these things together. You may have all the donations coming in, but if you don't know where to give them, it's not really going to be helpful. You may have all the money that you have, but if nobody's actually creating an audit for that one, it might not go where it's supposed to go. So what am I trying to say? We need to come together to have a standard, you have a process, to have actually a really concrete strategy. And I think that's why we're here. You know, I'm very excited, as what was said earlier, very excited to see what will come out of this coming together and putting our brains together to actually find out how can we have an organized system where we can actually make a difference with everything that we have right now. At Google, we have what we call the Maps Engine Lite. It's a program, it's a tool where you can create custom maps, and we do that every time we have a crisis. We create a crisis map where we can plot the movement of typhoon, and then we plot the shelters, we plot the danger zones, the areas that are prone to flooding, and then we plot health cares and all that. But you know what? Like I said earlier, this is not going to be possible without the volunteers. It's actually you people who take the time out of work to actually come together and work on something that makes the tool more powerful than what it is if it's just a tool. We also have the person finder. And again, this is nothing if it's not for the people who actually take the time to write in the names of everybody who's lost, to write in the names of people who they found, and then come together and then check every time somebody's looking for somebody. And I'm really very happy that families have been brought together because of this tool. But then again, it's just a tool. It's really the people and the volunteers who make it happen. So we have the likes of Rescue PH, of Bangon PH, who actually did something in the thick of the typhoon. And there are so many other organizations and volunteer groups who actually moved and really took things upon themselves to make a difference while these things are happening. Because at the end of the day, despite the magnitude of the effort from our government and from other organizations, it's really the people on the ground who can actually make a difference because they are the community. And I believe that's why we're here today, and that's what I really want to tell you. A couple of days from now, we're going to have a hackathon. But when they do code, they have to understand what is the question that they're trying to solve. And right now, in these coming days, when we come together, what is it that we're trying to solve? Because unless we know what we're trying to solve, we won't be able to find an answer. So are we trying to solve organization? Are we trying to solve mobilization? Are we trying to solve getting reliefs or getting aids? What is it that we really want to focus on? And it can be a lot of things. But before people can actually use the power of technology to make sure that these things will work, we have to know what we're working towards. So everybody has a story, as I said, and everybody has a hero in us. But can you just imagine if we can have tools that will systematize, maybe all the resources that we have and make sure that we have a database that can pinpoint where these resources are going. Maybe we can have a tool where we can monitor all the villages and barangays that need help and those that actually have already been helped. Because sometimes, although redundancy is very important, sometimes we become too redundant that the efforts are wasted. Because I remember a story, they said that people kept on sending relief goods to a certain area in Tacloban, but those surrounding areas were getting nothing and they were dying of hunger and starvation. Had we known that people there were not receiving anything, then perhaps you could have moved a little bit forward or to the west or to the east and gave enough of the resources that they need and not concentrated in one area. I also found out that there were storage and warehouses of rice and noodles, and they were not being distributed. So do we need a database and a system? These are things that I hope we can be thinking about this coming days, so that when we go to a hackathon, they know exactly, they can figure out exactly and imagine what is the app, what is the website, what is the resources in technology that we can put together so that we can actually bring out and do something to help the people. Whoop, my slide stopped responding to me. It's kind of cute, so maybe you can just look at that for a while and you know, to eat. It's that. So, well, anyway, as we are here gathered today, I just want to really say that it really does not take a Google or a U.S. Embassy or an aid organization that is not based here or a foreign military. It actually takes the locals to make things happen. It takes a village, really. I mean, it's cliche, but it's really true. It takes a village. It takes a community. Because you know what? We at Google, we come in times of calamities and disasters, and we help, and then we leave because that's not what we do on a day-to-day basis. Foreign correspondents, foreign aid, they come in and then they leave because that's really what they do. They come in to help and then they go. But the people who stay here are the people who are part of the communities, and they're the ones who really need all the resources, all this apps and technology, and the knowledge and information to make things happen in a long term. It's not the big guys who come in, it's the little guys who think bigger of themselves that can make a difference and make things work for us. So yes, that's why we're here. We're doing it not just, you know, for the sake of coming together. We're doing it for the Filipinos, we're doing it for the country, and I'd like to congratulate everybody for all your volunteerism, and I want to thank you for being here, and let's do this. Let's make this happen. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gail. And so our last speaker is Yoli Crisanto, who's a Senior VP for Corporate Communications, and our host, Globe Telecom.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you lower the volume of the sounds, please? All right, so since we were greeting each other in our own language this morning, I'd like to also greet you in our own language. Globe morning, everyone. That's how we greet each other at Globe, by the way. And please forgive my get up because as a Globe employee, I know that Valero usually had a no jeans policy. But when I woke up this morning, I knew I was going to a tent camp. So I thought I'd be wearing jeans, but I guess old habits die hard. Anyway, I'd like to welcome you all to our Valero office, and I'd like to thank our partners here, the USA, the US Embassy, Google, WFP, for allowing us to be here with you and probably, again, sharing what we have known and what we have learned from the previous disasters. Okay. I guess what we're trying to say today is not about the tragedies that had happened, because we are all aware of it, right? I guess what we want to talk to you today about is the triumph that had happened and how we were able to move forward from this disaster. So let me share with you a heartwarming story of the resiliency of our nation. The Philippines, as you know, is a country, we're an archipelagic nation, and we're not new to typhoons. Definitely not. Our country is visited by over 24 typhoons, if I'm not mistaken, every year. I guess we got that from Pagasa. Some of the stronger typhoons that we've had in the past, Typhoon Fengsen in 2008, resulted in $301 million in damages and 1,410 in fatalities. Typhoon Ketsana in 2009 had $244 million in damages, while Typhoon Bopha in 2013 had $1.04 billion in damages. But I guess no past experience have prepared us for what Haya truly is. 24 hours after landfall, we are in what you call a technology blackout. There were so many provinces in the Visayas that actually were isolated. And insofar as we are concerned, because we are a network, we are a mobile provider, about a great number of our cell sites actually in the Visayas went down. There was so much devastation and so much destruction. But I guess the story of how we collectively overcame this had to do with how Filipinos actually look at disasters. It's, again, our culture. And this value of caring is what we call malasakit. The value of malasakit, I don't think there is a direct English translation for what malasakit is. The value of malasakit is also anchored within our Globe Way. What you can see on your screen actually is an illustration of our own circle of happiness in Globe, which enshrines our vision of having the happiest employees, happiest shareholders, and happiest customers. And malasakit is deeply embedded in acting like an owner. So guided by the Globe Way, we responded to Yolanda using our own way of doing stakeholder relations. First, we start off with employees, then our customers, and then our communities. Such is the devastation of Yolanda that if you were on the ground, and exactly our employees were in the Visayas, they were actually victims themselves. This is one particular typhoon, and the devastation is so large that even your own engineers who are actually going to restore the services are actually worried about their own families. So I guess the number one thing that we needed to do was to secure our own employees, to give them the shelter. And within our 48 hours turnaround, which is very crucial at times of disaster, we were able to relocate our employees, especially their families, to Cebu, so where they can be safe. So if you're an engineer, imagine yourself that you're a Globe engineer in that area. You don't want to restore services and at the same time worry about their family. So we took the worry away so that they can go about the business of restoring the network. Having said that, the safety of our employees and their families paved the way for us to be able to focus on restoring the network of Globe in Visayas. In one humanitarian forum, just like this one, one humanitarian agency said that in times of disaster, communication is aid. And so we know that so many Filipinos out there are actually getting worried about their families back here, right? So it is important for us to be able to restore the network as soon as possible. Within 48 hours, Globe was able to restore network of Tacloban, which ended its isolation. I think there's kudos is needed to our Ka-Globe for doing, especially our engineers in the network technical group, for doing this in such a fast turnaround time. This ended the city's isolation and prompted the reconnection process in affected provinces by deploying cell sites on wheels. I guess there's something that you can see on your screen. And what we call the Lego cell sites. Okay. This is a system that can easily assemble instant cell site antennas within 96 hours. These are the tools that we actually used. No? And some of the cell sites on wheels and some of these Lego cell sites we were able to ship them by using our partners in government. We used resources from the Philippine Navy, from the Philippine Air Force to help us because we were transporting infrastructure by land, by sea, and by air. So Globe is not going to be complete even if it has restored its services for our customers. So in the time of disaster, it is not just about putting things back together. It is also about helping others and doing your own globe of good. And so we had to take care of our communities. And that we did through our project or our corporate-wide initiative which we call Bangon Pinoy. So Bangon Pinoy is a program that we kept recurring whenever there is a disaster. So as you can see, as a telco provider, we are actually not new to these types of things. Okay, and so the various groups of Globe came together to come up with our own resources, led by our CSR, of course, and with the help of our international and local partners to pitch in and contribute what they can do to immediately impact the communities that are devastated or that are affected. And these communities are in the areas of Ormoc, North Cebu, and Panay Island. Through Bangon Pinoy, our own services like free call stations, free internet, free charging using our own cell site generators were actually used. And using the relief operations of the other partners, we were able to gather food, shelter, and other resources like medicine, for instance, through St. Luke's that helped us address the needs of the population. Globe streamlined voluntary efforts from within the company with the generous aid of partners through our Bangon Pinoy Camp. Earlier, you were hearing Gail talking about what can you do and why are things all included or all focused on a particular area, which is Tacloban. Why? Because that's what you hear from media. But ladies and gentlemen, the devastation is so large that it does not just include one province. And so where did we put our camp? We put our camp in Giwan, which is actually the entry point of Typhoon Haiyan. So what did the camp do? It's actually a logistical initiative. It provided so many benefits. One, it helped the DSWD in terms of distributing goods and services, the relief items, to the far-flung areas because inside the camp we had trucks. Inside the camp, we had fuel for those trucks. Inside the camp, we had electricity coming from our own generator. And so people who wanted to use their mobile phones, because there was no commercial power available, they were all in the camp. People who wanted to help, like humanitarian agencies that didn't have the wherewithal where to sleep, the camp became their quarters, and it's all for free. So that is what we did. We helped each of the other organizations come together through the Giwan camp, the Bangon Pinoy camp of Globe. And so therefore, having said this, the Bangon Pinoy effort also paved the way for an even larger opportunity for us in Globe for a long-term nation-building effort. It eventually turned into what we call now Project Wonderful. Project Wonderful, I don't know if you've seen even the US actor Gabriel Macht visiting the Philippines for Project Wonderful. He's Harvey Specter of Suits, if you're watching TV series. Okay? And some of the celebrities coming together for free, like celebrity endorsers of of tattoo, like bamboo, who actually went to the camp or went to Leyte, to Ormoc Leyte, to give gifts to children at Christmas time. Remember, Haiyan struck in November, and so we were there back in Ormoc in December to give gifts and toys for the kids done via tattoo. And some of the people like Georgina Wilson and our own Globe executives themselves coming together in the GK village in Tambolilid to build houses for the victims, also in Ormoc. So Globe launched this Project Wonderful, which is a holistic approach to enrich our brand as a global customer-centric brand. And we were able to achieve this, or of course we're still a work in progress in terms of nation building, in terms of building a brand that is all about putting customers first and being relevant to our customers, and building our own culture of service orientation. So Project Wonderful enabled the various Globe brands with the help of its ambassadors to provide shelter to the homeless, education to the children, and generate livelihood opportunities for the jobless. In terms of livelihood, we were using our own services like AMAX, so those people in the provinces can actually resell load. Right? That's how we empowered it. And for education, we were using tents and our own rolling stores to be used as education hubs, so that the children and teacher volunteers can actually go to those hubs and continue with their education. So those are some of the things that we have done for our employees, for our customers, and also for our communities. But in all of these, what were the learnings? Typhoon Haiyan, or Typhoon Yolanda here in the Philippines, made us realize that as a company, we need to have a predictable and repeatable response to effectively address up-and-coming calamities. Our key learnings are focused on 3 areas: our people, process, and resources. For people, we need to establish a systematized way of taking care of our employees by providing them shelter, food, clothing, and other needs for the staff and family members in a disaster-resilient area. So the key here is, if you are in that community, you must find an area that is on a higher ground where you can relocate your own employees. And that will require from our technology partners a geohazard mapping of the Philippines. We need to be able to form emergency teams across groups to easily deploy special teams at any given disaster. For process, the #1 learning is that we need to be able to establish new norms. In the past, when you say typhoon signal number 4, well, what's that? That's just a higher form of typhoon signal number 3. Nobody knew what storm surge meant. And in this area, or in this period of climate change, what are the new norms? What are the new terms? When you talk about tsunami and all of that, Philippines has never seen tsunami. But do you think that tsunami in the Philippines is something that will never happen? It probably would at some point in time. So a process framework is the key to ensure repeatability and predictability of response. This includes, but is not limited to, agreeing a common set of policies, probably even across all the other non-government organizations and the government itself and the private sector. Procedures, strategies, documentation, and information plan. You know, during this time of Haiyan, if I can just share, there were humanitarian agencies that were actually looking at the rate of migration. How many people that used to live in Tacloban are no longer in Tacloban? Where did they go? Some people track those things, right? And you need good documentation so that if you're able to document these things, we can actually learn from them. And this documentation has to be agnostic. It has to be open to all of us. Because we're all in this together. We are one Philippines. For crisis communications, we will continue to include digital and social media as the primary channel for information dissemination. I guess at this point in time, what happened to us is, even if you did not see any visual of what's going on in the news reports of our local channels, you knew what was happening via Twitter and Facebook, right? So the infographics and that's the kind of information, where to help and how to help, should also be there in our social media. And for resources, the use of alternative power systems. We simply cannot rely on commercial power whenever there is a disaster, because, my friends, it is simply not there. So there has to be alternative power systems available to all of us and to the communities. I don't know how you're going to work this out with your local government units, but it has to be there. And other service recovery systems, which is focused on us as a service provider. How many cell site on wheels do we have? Satellite phones, if needed, and other earth stations or satellite stations that we would require. So I guess the lessons of Typhoon Haiyan only made ourselves stronger to rebuild our Philippines. And we are fortunate enough that we're still here talking to one another, learning from each other, and probably in your tech camp, you can take a look at all the other alternative modes and systems and tools that we can use to help us, to help this nation address disaster more responsibly. Thank you very much.
And let's give it up for Yoli Crisanto, Senior VP for Corporate Communications, Globe Telecoms. Thank you, Yoli. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, the first messages that we have this morning would be the most time that we will spend just listening to speakers throughout the tech camp for the next few days, because the entire design is actually designed to be completely collaborative.
Yes, we hope you're well rested here from sitting, because the rest of the time you're going to be up and standing. Okay?
It's the longest time you're going to be sitting. And it's important to know some tips that would generally make your tech camp experience a successful one. Now, Jamie, you've run tech camp, you mentioned, over 36 times?
Yes, we have.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the tips that you might have for them to maximize their experience?
Okay, first of all, this is all about your participation. So we have a lot of excellent trainers here in the room that are here to be your guides, as your consultants during the tech camp process. But as participants, you are the ones that really know the challenges and understand what your work is. And so we really rely on you to take charge, to ask questions, to very actively participate in what you're doing today.
In short, we really all invited you here today because all of you are experts. Lahat tayo, kung saan tayo nanggaling, experts in our own knowledge about disaster response or in particular technologies. So we're drawing from all your expertise. We are not the teachers or the big carriers of wisdom up in front. You are. And we are going to make conversations, networking, and solutions possible throughout TechCamp.
So just to kind of lay out what's going to happen for today, you have decisions to make as to what training sessions you want to go to, who you want to speak to, what the topics are that are most important to you. So if you look at the agenda, you'll see all of these different sessions that are available, and it's up to you to really pick the topics that are most relevant to you. So we're going to start off with a quick showcase of what is possible using the technology. You're going to hear all of these stories from various technologists so you can get an idea of what's out there. Then we're going to do a little deeper look where you choose the technology you want to learn a little bit more about. We're going to turn it back to you, to your challenges, to the solutions that you want to make. And so those discussions will be more centered around the actual topic that you're having a challenge with. And by the end of today, you should have a challenge drafted. So how am I going to address this unique challenge using the technology that I've learned about TechCamp? So it's going to be a really fun process, and by the end of the day, we'll already start to come up with some solutions.
Yeah, so the important thing really for you to do is follow your feet and follow your heart. If you are most curious about a particular topic, then go attend that topic. You won't be able to understand everything, so there will be a lot of fear of missing out. I actually advise that if there are more, if there are, let's say, 3 or 4 members of your team, please go to different talks each, and then maybe later on, after the day, update each other on the different talks that you went to, because you won't be able to attend everything. It's physically impossible for you to do that.
So tomorrow morning when you get here, we'll have all of the challenges that you can sign up to participate, to solve throughout the course of the day, and you'll have more opportunities to ask questions of the technologists if you have some remaining, or if there's something that you want to talk to a little bit more. So there should be ample opportunity to talk to all the people that you want to. And if we can help, please let us know, because we're here for you.
Absolutely. So are you guys ready to get our tech camp rolling? Okay, we're going to do something right now. I'm going to ask you all to stand up, please. Stand up. And if you are in the middle section right now, I would like you actually to move these chairs to the left and to the right. So where I am right now, move the chairs to the left and the right so that we have actually an open space right in the middle. So please move your own chairs, ladies and gentlemen. Much easier that way. Move the chairs to the left and to the right. Now, what's going to happen is our wonderful staff from Digicon will now lay down a piece of tape right down the center of this room, a piece of masking tape right down the center. Just one piece of tape right down the center. And just to get us in the mood of actively participating and moving about in a discussion, we're going to divide the room. What we're going to do right now is I am going to, Jamie and I are going to read out statements. And simply, all you have to do is let your feet do the walking and the talking. If you agree with the statement, then you should be on this side of the room. And actually, there you go. There you go. Actually, yeah, you should show it all around. Ayana is holding it up. Agree is all there. If you are if you agree with the statement. If, however, you disagree with the statement, then you move to this side. I'm a little bit confused. So the line is left.
So if you're somewhere in the middle, you don't agree, you don't disagree, you're somewhere on the fence, you can stand in the middle of the line. Okay, so this is kind of a spectrum of if you agree or disagree.
So strongly disagree, dito. Strongly agree, dito. And we're going to go through several statements. And I'm going to try and squeeze in people as we go along. And then we're going to ask some of you to talk about how strongly you feel about the statements. Are the instructions clear? Are the instructions clear? Okay, so our first statement, again, strongly agree here, strongly disagree. We're gonna start easy. The first statement here, the first statement is I love Chris Aquino's new hairstyle.
So you're gonna basically move and find your place. Move and find your place here. This goes for everyone. The participants, facilitators, everyone. And if you don't care, you can stay in the center. Everyone.
DJ, can you hold it for a while? Saan ko ito point to?
Okay, it seems the crowd has spoken. The biggest contingent is the contingent saying, we don't care about Chris Aquino. We're moving on to another statement. Jamie, do the honors.
Okay, so banana ketchup is better than tomato ketchup. Do you agree or disagree?
Okay, ask the one. Jamie, let's start with that recap.
Okay, I never tried banana ketchup, so can you tell me why?
Okay, today is going to have taking
It's healthy, it's less acidic. Where you have a hyperactivity, so you better take banana ketchup.
Today is from UP Los Baños, university. There are some people here who don't care either way. Sir, anong opinion natin why we don't care?
Well, I'm doing don't care about university.
Very good. And you've been here for a while. How long have you been here? Since January. Have you tried?
Okay.
In your opinion, banana ketchup is what?
Sige. Pero, dito na.
Thank you very much for the variety of opinions. Okay.
Media center kayo.
Now we are going to the last statement. And the statement is this: agree over that side, disagree over this side. It is better to be locked